will assist in patching these speakers through when their turn comes up. Clerk, can we have the roll call, please?
Mayor Stewart is in the chair. Councillor Carr.
Here.
Councillor DeGenova.
Present.
Councillor Fry. Councillor Fry, are you on the line? Councillor Swanson.
Here.
Councillor Hardwick.
Present.
Councillor Wiebe.
Present.
Councillor Boyle.
Present.
Councillor Dominato.
Present.
Councillor Bly.
Present.
Councillor Kirby-Yung.
Present.
You have quorum, Mayor Stewart.
Thanks very much. First, of course, as always, we acknowledge we're in the unceded traditional territories of the Musqueam, Squamish, and Tsleil-Waututh nations, and thank them for having cared for this land for so long. And I think we're all enjoying working in partnership with them as we build this great city together. And just want to thank all the staff that do everything they can to make our city an incredible place to live, work, and play. Before I begin, there's some announcements. Speakers have 5 minutes to make their comments, but should limit their comments to the merits of the report being considered. Speakers should also state whether they are in support or opposed to the recommendations. Second, speakers may only speak once and should follow along on Twitter at VanCityClerk for updates on the progress of the meeting so they don't miss their turn to speak. Any comments on agenda items can be submitted in writing to publichearing@vancouver.ca, publichearing@vancouver.ca. Finally, if council does not conclude hearing from all speakers this evening, we will recess and reconvene the meeting on Thursday, May 14th, 2020 at 6 p.m. A reminder that council's role at the public hearing is to be a quasi-judicial body, which means that council is only to consider the merits of the rezoning application or heritage designation. Council members may ask clarifying questions from speakers, including the applicant, or technical advice from staff, but should save debate for after the close of speakers. After hearing from speakers, council may approve the application. The first thing is we can approve in principle the application. Second thing is we can refuse the application, or third, we can defer the application for further consideration. So we've had, as you'll know, we had a couple of rezonings withdrawn. We had a little glitch in the mail out process. Those will come back on stream shortly. So today we're just dealing with the third item on the agenda, which is 6103 West Boulevard. And the clerk will now read the applications and summary of correspondence received.
This is an application by the General Manager of Planning, Urban Design and Sustainability to add to the existing building at 6103 West Boulevard, known as SEP Block, to the Vancouver Heritage Register in the C evaluation category, and to designate the facades of the existing building to secure the long-term protection of the heritage property from inappropriate alterations and demolitions. Since being scheduled to public hearing, Council has received one piece of correspondence in support. This represents all correspondence received up to approximately 6 p.m. today.
Great, thanks very much. So if there are any speakers for this item who wish to speak to council, please call 604-681-8564. That's 604-681-8564, followed by participant code 46483 hashtag, 46483 hashtag. And we'll get on the list to get on the list before the close of the speakers list. Phone number will be tweeted out and available on the live stream, just in case you missed it. So we have Zlatan Jankovic, the Senior Heritage Planner, to present the application.
Mr. Mayor.
Go ahead.
Thank you. This is Zlatan Jankovic, Senior Heritage Planner. Mr. Mayor, councillors, the purpose of this report is to seek council approval to add the heritage building at 6103 West Boulevard to the Vancouver Heritage Register in the C evaluation category and to designate its exterior as protected heritage property. The city has received a permit application to construct a 5-story mixed-use residential commercial building on a consolidated site encompassing the heritage building site. The proposed development consists of 8 lots located between West 45th and West 46th Avenues on West Boulevard. The application proposes to preserve, rehabilitate, and restore the historic facades along West Boulevard and West 45th Avenue, and a portion of the south facade of the Heritage Building, incorporating them with a 5-story mixed-use new structure behind. The original storefronts will be restored based on archival evidence from the original blueprints. The new development would create 64 market residential units, 7 commercial retail units, and 2 restaurants at grade. To help facilitate the development as well as to compensate the owner for the heritage designation and conservation of the heritage building, the Development Permit Board has approved additional density of 10%, which is FSR 2.5 to 275, and relaxation of the maximum height from 13.8 meters to 19.8 meters to accommodate bonus density. The proposal is consistent with the Arbutus Ridge, Kerrisdale, Shaughnessy Community Vision 2005 by supporting the preservation of historic character of the area, and it is also consistent with the C2 zoning district schedule. The General Manager of Planning, Urban Design and Sustainability is prepared to issue the development permit should Council approve designation of the heritage building as recommended in this report. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Just a reminder to the public, if they'd like to speak to this, you could call 604-681-8564, followed by the participant code, which is 61669, and we're tweeting that number out and available on the live stream, 604-681-8564, participant code 61669, hashtag. Great. So now I'm going to turn it over to the clerk. Is there any, there's nobody on the speakers list, but has anybody phoned in to speak to this, clerk?
Mayor Stewart, we don't have any speakers as of now.
Okay. So are there any questions from council to staff? And I'll just, sorry, go on the list here. Right, I've got Councillor Hardwick, and I'll just be right with you. My doodad set up here. Sorry, there we go. Okay. Councillor Hardwick, up to 5 minutes, please go ahead.
Thank you very much, and thank you, Zlatan, for the presentation. Could you describe a little bit more the heritage component and the process that was undertaken, including with the Heritage Commission? You talked a little bit about the fact it's gone through the Development Permit Board, but could you outline a little bit more the importance of the heritage component? Thank you.
The processing of the proposal with the Heritage Commission consisted of the preparation of the Statement of Significance for the site, the heritage evaluation as well, to determine whether or not this structure belongs to Heritage Register, which we positively confirmed. It was evaluated to be as a potential Category C addition. Both of these were discussed with the first subcommittee, Heritage Commission subcommittee. Then after that, together with the development permit application, it was presented to the Heritage Commission. The Heritage Commission have reviewed the proposal and had some recommendations. And in addition to being supportive of what's been presented, they expressed some concerns about the volume of a new structure that is towering behind it. But I generally supported the idea of retention of the components as presented.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
I didn't mean to cut you off there. Was there something else you were going to add?
No, I thought I was just to ask if this is what you meant. I could speak more about the heritage values, but which is also described on page 4 in the heritage value section.
No, I having been in that meeting, I remember it as a very positive response. I think it would be also useful to understand how the heritage transfer works in this case to enable the accompanying density. It's enabling the heritage is enabling the density.
There is a requirement, the charter requirement for city to compensate for legal protection by designation bylaw. So we usually that value as assessed through the process is usually expressed through some additional density because that's the most practical, the most desired way of compensating development. When situation occurs where there is a potential opportunity to land that additional density on site, which is not always the case, but if the site is large enough to accommodate new development and has some extra density that is assigned as a bonus density for heritage conservation, then this could land and can land, like in this particular case, but it is limited to a certain amount. If this was more than 10%, you probably wouldn't land in all entirety on the site. So yes, the density.
Sorry, so you would consider this a good example of the balance between heritage and additional density?
We consider this a reasonable balance, utilizing existing planning tools and helping heritage at the same time. The size and the scale of development allowed us to deploy the additional density on this site. In some other cases, this approach may not be appropriate.
Great. Thank you very much for your detail.
Thank you. Councillor Swanson, you have up to 5 minutes. Go ahead.
Yeah, thanks. I'm wondering about the context of this building. Just a sec, is it part of a new condo development? Is the heritage being paid for by?
Yes, this is a large site. It consists of 8 parcels, and just a small component of the large site is occupied by the heritage building. So yes, we are accommodating new development, but at the same time, we are achieving heritage conservation of the heritage structure that is on that consolidated site.
So, has there been any demolition of rental apartments as part of the development?
Not to my knowledge. I don't think so.
So is it condos that are going in?
64 market residential units and 7 commercial retail units. Yes.
And is the heritage being paid for by the CACs on that development?
No, the heritage.
No, it's not based off.
It's not paid off the CAC. No.
Okay, thanks.
Thanks very much. Councillor Dejanova, up to 5 minutes. Go ahead.
Thanks so much. I was just hoping that staff might be able to share some information on if there is an abundance of this type of family housing. I see a number of family housing units that are available. Do we see an abundance of that in this neighborhood? Or is that something that's sought after and that we don't seem to have enough of in the city of Vancouver, specific to this neighborhood?
Hi, how it's
Speaking of the abundance, I just to clarify your question, are you referring to the market saturation with the residential units in this area, or is there need for them or not so much? Is that what you're asking?
Really both of them. So, I mean, what is the inventory of family housing, this type of family housing in the area at this price point?
Councillor Dejanova, this is Teresa O'Donnell. On this particular application, remember that we're on a heritage application. We don't do that housing analysis like we did in rezoning. This will be a heritage application. It will be followed by a DP, but we don't do that in depth of an analysis on the housing in this particular area for the heritage designation.
Thank you, Ms. O'Donnell. Just wanted to ask one more question. This does meet with the Housing Vancouver strategy and goals. It doesn't in any way not align with that, correct?
That is correct. And yes, it does meet the high density housing for children and families. 82% are 2-bedroom units, plus 11% are 3-bedroom units.
Thank you. That's all my questions on this.
Thank you so much. Councillor Weeb.
Yeah, thanks for the presentation. I'm just wondering, what is the condition of the mosaic tiles and the wood transoms and some of the other kind of characteristic components that are currently hiding by the signage?
Our understanding, based on the documentation that's provided by the heritage consultant, is that in relatively good condition, and we will be able to see it restored.
Amazing. Thank you very much for the presentation.
You're welcome.
Thank you. That's it for questions from councillors. Now I'll go to the clerk. We'll hear from the public, and I'll just check and see if there's anybody. There's nobody registered to speak. Are there any speakers on the line, clerk?
No, we don't have any speakers on the line.
Okay. So let's see. Would I call for speakers 3 times still?
Yes, you do, please.
Okay. So I'm going to call for speakers once, and if you'd like to speak, you call 604-681-8564, participant code 61669 #. And I'll call a second time. Again, the number 604-681-8564, participant code 61669 #. And one more time. Let's check one more time with you, clerk. Are we good?
Let's give it a minute, if you don't mind, Mr. Mayor.
Yeah, did you want to take, it says here that you perhaps take 5 minutes to
Yeah, just
wait,
to give
but...
speakers opportunity to call in if we do have any interested in calling in.
Okay, Council, I'm going to take just suggest we take a 5-minute break, and just to make sure that speakers have a chance on this one, and I will just read the number out again, 684-681-8564, participant code 61669 #. So Council, we'll just recess for 5 minutes and come back at 6:27. 5 p.m. today. I suggest we close the receipt of public comments and move on to hearing closing comments, asking further questions of staff and to make a decision. Does staff have any closing comments?
No, thank you.
Okay, thanks. I'm just going to go to the council list here. Oh, there we go. Councillor Kirby-Yung, I have you on the list for a question.
Yeah, I'm happy to move the motion and then speak to it if there's no further questions.
Okay, I don't see anybody on the list.
Move the recommendations, I should say.
Sure. Okay, great. Thanks. So we have a seconder.
Councillor Carr, second.
Okay, thanks. And we have, so Councillor Kirby-Yung, you have up to 5 minutes.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm really happy to support this application. I'm a huge proponent of retaining heritage whenever we can in all forms, in conjunction, particularly I think with new development, because I think that retains sort of the essence of the city and the character that we came from. I did take the opportunity to read a letter that we got from Heritage Vancouver, and I do note that they expressed qualified support for this. And I'm very conscious that the decision before us tonight is simply for the heritage piece and not the overall development. But with respect to the heritage component, they suggested that the remainder of the block would have undifferentiated commercial storefronts and felt that an opportunity had been missed to incorporate a variety of storefronts and treatments at the ground level that would have supported the past character of the Kerrisdale commercial context. So I note that from a purely heritage perspective, which is what we're considering tonight, that it certainly would have been nice to see some of that essence of design extend further down the block. I don't know if we'll have a chance to weigh in where that DP is at. But having said that, I'm fully supportive of retention of this heritage component. And I think those general type stores creates that feeling of those create such nostalgia for people of a bygone era. And I think that that's actually what we're fighting. It's I think very evocative. And it's sort of an illustration of what we're fighting to save now to ensure that we don't lose those small businesses due to COVID. So from that perspective, I'm really happy to support this application. Thank you.
Thanks very much. Councillor Hardwick, up to 5 minutes, please.
Bygone days. I grew up in this neighborhood and it's Kerrisdale Lumber, and the boulevard was the regular hunt from 49th to 41st. And the neighborhood has changed tremendously over time, and it is wonderful to have at least the last vestiges of the commercial storefronts there to remind us of the neighborhood. And it's gone through so many changes decade after decade. And this is, of course, there's a lot more density going on along the boulevard there. And just being able to have this piece of retention there, I think, is valuable and appreciated. So I am in support. I'll echo Councillor Kirby-Young's remark about would be nice to carry the design characteristics a little bit further along. But it is certainly a move in the right direction and justifying the height and massing that is accompanying it, I believe, as well. So thumbs up.
Thank you. Councillor Dominato, up to 5 minutes.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor, and I'll be brief. I did want to just to start off just to say thanks and my appreciation for us really taking some time to allow people to phone in, just because this is our sort of trial run of doing a virtual public hearing. And I think that that's a good approach, and so I just want to acknowledge that. With respect to the application and the heritage, I really think, of course, we're challenged. We want to preserve the heritage aspects of buildings and history of the city, but at the same time, we have to continue changing. The city today looks very different than it did 100 years ago. And I know 100 years, and probably none of us will be there, it'll look different 100 years from now, but I really appreciate the effort to combine with that new build, but preserving the facade. We just did that recently, I think, with another proposed as a rental development in East Vancouver as well, where again it's preserving the facade around Hastings and Penticton. And so I appreciate that it is we got qualified feedback in the letter that Councillor Kirby-Yung referenced, and that's certainly the tension I think we feel around sort of growing, changing, but also trying to recognize the history. And but I do appreciate the application that's come forward and support it.
Great, thanks so much. I don't see anybody else on the speakers list, so call a vote on this.
I'll need a vote assist in favor, please, Mayor Stewart.
Okay, thank you very much. And that's passed unanimously. Okay, thank you very much, Council. I now need a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
So move. Second,
Counselor.
second, Cal.
That's a lot. Okay. I think I heard Councillor Hardwick first and followed by Councillor Carr seconder. So we'll do yays and nays. All in favor, say yay.
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 And opposed, say nay. Great, that's carried unanimously. So council, this meeting's adjourned and we will reconvene in regular council at 6:45 to finish that business. Okay, thanks so much and we'll talk to you. Right, and I just ask you to stay on the same WebEx. We just won't log out and log back in again. We'll stay on the same WebEx. If you could just mute yourselves, we'll come back at 6:45, just in about 13 minutes. Okay, thanks very much. thanks very much. Right, so we're moving to motion 7, recalibrating the Housing Vancouver strategy post-COVID-19, which is moved by Councillor Hardwick. And if you just let me get my screen set up here, I will. So Councillor Hardwick, you have up to 2 minutes to introduce your motion.
Why does it say 1 minute?
I don't know, we've had a little trouble. I think that's just for the reply is the 1 minute, but
Is there anywhere that I can see the timer going?
Can you see it there?
It's, yes. Okay, so I'll go real quick then.
No, you don't have to go quick. Go ahead, up to 2 minutes.
Okay, well, all of council will have heard me questioning the Housing Vancouver goals of 72,000 new homes over the next decade. That would mean 7,200 new dwelling units every year from 2018 to 2028. And when I've asked about how those targets were arrived at, I've been told that, you know, primarily they came from our values. And I have been asking, and this is really an ask, for the data on, because I'm very much a data person and about evidence-based decision making. And so I looked at the census data, and it doesn't align. There may be other data there as well, but I think that especially as we're moving forward, as we do know that the primary driver of our housing industry has been in Canada, not just Vancouver, driven by immigration, and all the banks now are suggesting that there's going to be a slowdown in immigration that will similarly mean a slowdown in the housing industry. So I'm just super concerned that we do our diligence, that we go back to first principles and look at the underlying assumptions on which our plans are based. So expect that you're going to see a revised motion from me that's going to address some of the concerns that have been expressed, just to be clear that that's coming. But ultimately, we need the data, then we do the analysis, then we make whatever policy changes arise from that. But not to go back, especially under the situation that we're in with the COVID pandemic, and not revisit our underlying assumptions, I think would be wrong. And we have the opportunity to do it now, has been suggested under the Vancouver plan. So recalibrating, that's what it's all about.
Thanks. And you've got Councillor Carr for a question for a minute. So please go ahead, Councillor Carr. It's all right. You're on mute, I think, Councillor Carr.
Sorry about that. My
That's okay.
My first question has to do, Councillor Hardwick, with your assumption that there will be a slowdown in immigration. Don't forget that this housing plan is over 10 years and that everywhere around the world, people are estimating that there will be a net and very large increase in immigration due to the climate crisis, and which will make large parts of the world uninhabitable.
This Vancouver Housing Vancouver strategy is very specifically for this decade. And while it's reasonable to assume that there will be ongoing population, to suggest that an order of magnitude of 100,000 more people would be immigrating here within that time period, I think is unlikely. But notwithstanding, I cannot see that an re-examination of underlying assumptions could do anything but inform our decision making down the line. I want to be clear that what I'm not suggesting here is decision making or policy changes. I'm suggesting that we revisit the underlying assumptions and the data that we have.
Thanks. Councillor Bly, up to a minute.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. You may have very well just answered my question, Councillor Hardwick, and that is, how would you like Council to consider this motion in terms of how the, if it passes and the staff do come back with this revised data, how would you see that being used in terms of planning and projections and housing targets going forward?
Well, step by step, I have been talking to the Director of Planning about this. This is something that I've been interested in for a very long time and watching closely, as it has been an emergent process. But the steps normally are: look at the assumptions, look at the underlying data on which our judgments are based, go through and a fresh analysis, a fresh set of eyes, fresh information, and then revisit any kind of policy changes that would stem from that after that exercise has been complete.
Thank you. Councillor Fry.
Yeah, thanks. Your motion suggests that the Housing Vancouver strategy targets should align with projected population growth based on census data. Is your intention then to preclude other data, for instance, CMHC, economic and employment growth, regional growth strategy, those other data points?
Not in a million years.
It's just an oversight in the motion.
Okay. It was, and you
Okay,
should have received, Councillor Fry, another email from me on this.
Oh, sorry, I haven't checked my email. But Leslie, you mentioned that there's evidence that immigration is going to slow in upcoming years. There's no citation for that evidence. Where's that evidence coming from?
If you're sitting at your computer, look at the TD Economist and the most recent housing industry projections and commentary, I think dated April 28th. I'll share the link with you. This is something, again, that is being widely discussed by the banks in this sector. And I think, again, whether it's true or not, there's a certain amount of crystal ball gazing in all of this. We ought to be asking the questions and getting the best possible data. And I'm never going to say no to another data set.
Okay, thanks. Councillor Dominato. Sorry, Councillor Dominato, do you have?
Can you hear me now?
I can. I'll just reset your timer. Please go ahead whenever you're ready.
Yes, just to Councillor Hardwick, I'm just wondering, in the context of your request for data, do you see an opportunity here when you talk about recalibrating, is looking at that housing continuum? Because one of the challenges I think we found was that we weren't providing the right mix of housing. The missing middles come up. That was one of the motivators for me to run. I think probably others. Is that something you would see us looking at?
100%. You know, we were talking earlier on today about the empty homes tax and the impact that that has had on us. Well, the empty homes are not just single family dwellings in Dunbar. They're stacked all the way downtown in various ways, as you know. And the fact is there, if you look actually at the CMHC numbers from 2016, you'll see that there were 9,759 building starts in a single year. So, but a large amount of this has gone into the luxury condo market because that's where the money has been. That's changed, of course, with the speculation tax and the empty homes tax. But the bottom line is we need to make sure that we get the right housing for the people moving forward. And that's what I'm focused on.
Thank you.
Councillor Boyle, up to a minute.
Thanks. I have two quick questions. The first is I'm curious about the June report back date. That seems pretty quick, and I'm wondering if you have that.
So, Councillor Boyle, I also CC'd you on some work that I have been doing with the Director of Planning, and so we have agreed to push that out till Q4 of this year to be able to envelope it into existing reports that are coming forward.
Okay, thanks. And then I've heard mention of a few emails and revisions. I'm wondering if there's a clear plan of the revisions you plan to bring forward that we'll see before tomorrow.
You have it.
Think about it.
You do have them. I sent it through to you and to Councillor Swanson in a group with the Seniors Advisory Council. So if you look for that, you'll see the state, and it includes the exchange between me and the Director in Planning.
Okay, maybe you can just recirculate it so all of Council has the same thing, but I'll look.
I absolutely will. I absolutely will.
Thanks.
Thanks, Councillor Kirby-Yung.
Yeah, thanks, Mr. Chair. I know that this has generated a lot of discussion, Councillor Hart, which I know is always a good thing. And I'm looking at clause 5 in the current motion, and you talk about the average household size of 2.2 and that equating to 158,000 new people or new homes required based on 72,000 units. But would you agree that there needs to be more sort of qualitative analysis as well as metrics in terms of what those household compositions are going to look like? They could be smaller, could have single people, we could have less than 2.2.
Well, 2.2 is the median average. That's what median average means, is you've got people on the one hand that are are
Yeah, I understand.
single people, the other ones are families. So in Vancouver specifically, the median average is 2.2, and so I use these are broad numbers, but when applied in contrast with what we've seen historically, they don't line up. And so again, the purpose here is to do a more fulsome analysis and go back and look at our underlying assumptions on which our plans have been made.
Okay, that's my minute. Otherwise, I'd ask another one. Thank you.
I have a question, actually, if I could turn it over to Councillor Wiebe for steer this
Go
one.
ahead, Mayor Stewart.
Thanks very much. So Councillor Hardwick, we found that the data kind of weren't pointing in the direction you're expecting it to. Would you be open to revising the numbers upward?
Up from the 72,000 that's in place?
Yeah.
I would be shocked. But evidence-based decision-making is the name of the game, and we'll see what the evidence provides.
Okay, thanks very much.
Thank you.
Point of privilege, if I could ask a question and be put on the queue, Mayor Stewart?
Sure, go ahead, Councillor DeGenova.
Thanks so much. Councillor Hardwick, I haven't heard much about affordability in this. We talked about immigration, in these questions. I was hoping
Sorry,
we'd be able to.
I thought it was 2 minutes too.
I'm going to, it's the 7 o'clock yelling.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, that was not me. I can attest to that. Councillor DeGenova.
I'll restart your timer. Go ahead, Councillor DeGenova.
No, it's okay. I'll be very quick. Thanks, Mr. Mayor. Just, Councillor Hardwick, how is affordability measured in this motion when we look at affordability? Where, there's housing, but then there's affordable housing. So I'm not seeing that measured here. And have you considered the data and information that says that the more housing there is of the right supply, the more affordable that will be?
Well, I'm asking for information here, and we need to do some complex analysis once we have that data in place. There's a lot of descriptions bandied about what is really affordable, and we can also suggest that the pattern, especially up at the top of the market in 2016, increased the cost overall of production of labor and materials, not to mention the underlying land on which it's based. So there are complexities in terms of the land use economics that would be, informed by better data instead of just simple binary responses.
Okay, thanks very much. We're at the end of the minute. I don't see anybody else on the list for questions, so we need somebody to second this motion.
Second, Councillor Kirby-Young.
Okay, I think I heard Councillor Bly first, so it's seconded. So we've received requests to speak to this motion. If the council would like to hear speakers, they can refer the motion to standing committee.
Move to Councillor DeGenova, the standing committee tomorrow.
Thanks. And a seconder?
Second, Councillor Carr.
Thanks, Councillor Carr. So all those in favor will say yay.
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 Opposed, say nay. Okay, thanks. That's referred to tomorrow. Councillor Hardwick, just a point of curiosity, you've said there's amendments or something coming that you're speaking to.
Sure, I'll get that right over to, it's sort of, I have to put it in as a strike and replace.
Yeah, I just want to remind you that the public, of course, who are coming to speak to this will only be speaking to the motion that you've put forward. So I would suggest that if it is a major change, you may want to consider submitting it in a way that the public can fully participate, rather than being surprised with a large replacement if that's what's coming. So
it's not a large replacement, but the most significant thing is extending the deadline to when the work would be completed. But it's not materially different.
Yeah.
But I have been posting it on my Facebook page, and so people.
Yeah, that's not the proper process though. So we want to make sure that the public has a chance in general to talk to this. So I just wanted to say from what I heard as chairing. So we're moving on now to the notice of council members' motions, and we'll put yourselves in the queue, please. If there people are coming forward, want to put forward private members motions. Again, it's just you need to say the title and to send it into the clerk. And I've got Councillor Fry first. Go ahead, Councillor Fry.
Yeah, thanks, Mayor. And I've submitted these to the clerk already. There's three. The first is co-submitted with Councillor Wiebe. It's a bylaw to designate public spaces for responsible consumption of alcohol. Number two is
Thank you,
defining.
Councillor Fry.
Pardon me?
Thank you, Councillor Fry.
Oh, you're welcome, Councillor Wiebe. Number two is defining social housing consistently and transparently in the city of Vancouver. And number three is short-term landlords, long-term protection for renters and hotels.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Boyle.
Thanks, and I just have one, which is responsible alcohol consumption in Vancouver parks and beaches. So we'll see what commonalities we can find.
Okay, thanks. I have a note from the clerk that we've only had written notice from Councillors Fry and Boyle. So just to make sure if you have motion titles to send them into the clerk. Councillor Bly.
Thank you very much. And this motion was put on notice, but unfortunately did not make it to the agenda. So it's a secondary calling of this motion from the last meeting. So enhancing COVID-19 revenue streams for smaller unlicensed restaurants and cafes via temporary liquor licensing.
Okay, sorry, you were fading in and out there. Couldn't quite hear. Do you think you can read that again? Yes,
sure.
please.
Enhancing COVID-19 revenue streams for smaller unlicensed restaurants and cafes via temporary liquor licensing.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Kirby-Yung.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. It's also one that I called notice on last meeting, but due to a glitch procedurally, it didn't make it onto the agenda, and it's declaration to urge the Government of Canada to provide urgent funding.
Okay.
Oh, sorry,
thanks.
urgent transit funding.
Urgent transit funding. Okay, thank you very much. So that's it. Now we're on to new business inquiries and other matters, and we can just group those together. So if you'd like to do one of those three things, please let us know. Councillor Swanson, please go ahead. Councillor Swanson, I think you might be on mute.
Sorry, can you hear me now?
Yes, I can. Please go ahead.
I just wanted to read a short poem. Excuse me.
Okay.
In honor of Dave Murray. Dave died last week. He was a gentle, smart, committed, quiet hero of the Downtown East Side. He worked on the Downtown East Side Local Area Planning Committee. He was active in Vandu. He fought for housing for low-income folks. He pushed for safe supply and for heroin-assisted treatment. He was always kind, and he really liked this poem that I'm going to read. And he read it at conferences and meetings of people who use drugs. And it was written by my late partner, Sandy Cameron. It's called Telling Stories. We need to tell our own stories. If we don't tell our stories, people with power will tell our stories for us, and we won't like what they say. When we tell our stories, we reach out to each other and build community. We share our pain. We share our hope. We share our laughter and our determination. When we tell our stories, we draw our own maps, and we question the maps of the powerful. Each of us has something to tell, something to teach. We speak the language of the heart, here in the Downtown East Side, the soul of Vancouver. So rest in peace, Dave. We're going to really miss you.
Thank you, Councillor Swanson. That was very nice. Did you have anything else under this category?
No.
Okay, thanks. Councillor Fry.
Yeah, thanks, Mayor. This is a general inquiry. My wife and I were enjoying some of the nice weather in the neighborhood this weekend and noticed quite a horrendous smell down around False Creek at Science World. I've since asked around a little bit on this matter, and I've been told that the mobile pump services that service the various boats that are at anchor in False Creek, that the mobile pump services have been postponed in the wake of COVID. And I'm a little concerned that, typically holding tanks only do about 4 days of waste before they have to be dumped into False Creek. And what's going on with the pump out services, and is there any options for us to pursue a cost recovery model so we can continue that important service, especially as we have more people trying to physically distance, get outside and enjoy the good weather that we're anticipating?
Thank you, Councillor Fry. City Manager, is that something you can answer now, or perhaps in a
yeah, no, I can.
Response? Okay,
happy to jump in. Yeah, as you know, with COVID, we are evaluating all of our discretionary expenses, and that service was caught up in that process. There is kind of a longer term plan that the marinas would be contributing to that service. It would be part of a kind of a cost recovery model, and that was intended that would start to kick in, I think, in 2021. But either way, recognizing we're getting into boating season and some of the marinas that normally do pump outs aren't operating, we recognize that this is a needed service, and we are proceeding with it on an interim basis. We got to see if we'll continue it through the whole season, but we have authorized it to proceed at this point.
Thanks for that update.
Okay, thanks, Councillor Fry. Did you have anything else?
No, I'm good. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Councillor Bly.
Yeah, thanks very much, Mr. Mayor. I just wanted to highlight a funding announcement that was made yesterday on Monday. The Federation of Canadian Municipalities, which I serve as a board director on behalf of the city in this council, issued a statement sharing a partnership with the Canadian Medical Association Foundation, which includes $10 million donation from CMAF to eligible cities and communities to help target identify and fund urgent local responses to COVID-19, specifically improving the health and well-being of vulnerable populations. And I'm pleased to share that Vancouver is one of the 70 communities who will be receiving a portion of that funding. And we know that municipalities have been working flat out during the pandemic and deploying extraordinary measures to protect people who face enormous challenges when it comes to staying safe, whether it's in our shelters or on our streets. And so we know that as frontline governments, we in the city of Vancouver have seen firsthand how vulnerable those populations are and how they have been the hardest hit. So we feel very grateful and excited by this announcement. We are well placed to effectively direct funds, and that's been recognized by the partnership between FCM and CMA. And so as a result, this donation enables us to deploy these funds to our most urgent need to support our most vulnerable residents. And I wanted to make sure that that was shared, and we're very grateful for the partnership and the work of FCM and CMA. And also our staff working with FCM through this process to enable this donation. So thank you very much to all of our staff that worked on this.
Thank you. Anything else, Councillor Bly?
That's it. Thank you.
Okay, thanks. Councillor Kirby-Yung and Councillor Dejanova, I've added you to the list at the bottom. Councillor Kirby-Yung, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I have two inquiries of staff, and the first one relates to a motion direction that was given by Council at the April 14th Council meeting, and that was in relation to the COVID-19 financial impact report. And the direction from Council that staff would come back with, and I quote, options for consideration that will enable the City of Vancouver to achieve a balanced 2020 operating budget by the end of May, including providing Council with a summary of capital projects and which ones impact operating debt. So I just wanted to confirm that that is on track and will be on the May 26th set of Council and committee meetings. That's my first inquiry.
City Manager.
Yeah, well, as you know, we reported at the last council meeting with an update on the work there, and we do plan to report back at the last council meeting in May.
Super, thank you. And then my second inquiry just relates to a variance that was given for Vancouver's oldest mosque, the Al Masjid Al Hamia on West 8th, to broadcast their Adhan, or call to prayers for Ramadan, for the remainder of the month of May through May 23rd, really recognizing and celebrating our interculturalism here in the city of Vancouver, which I think is ever more important given the increasing attacks we're seeing of racism, and just another one today announced by TransLink. So my question is, I'm wondering, I know that noise variance was given through our development and licensing department and inspector, and I'm wondering if that same opportunity is being extended to other mosques, places of worship, and churches throughout the city, if they should choose to do something similar for their respective cultural practices or celebrations.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, I can jump in.
Please, go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, as they reach out, we are working with them as we did with this mosque. So we're trying to be responsive to the various requests that we get, and certainly got a couple of calls, and we're doing what we can to support them to adjust how they engage with each other and in their religious activities. So that's something we're going to continue to support.
Okay, I appreciate that. And sort of related, and sort of last inquiry is really around just noting my deepening and shock, dismay, and concern about the continued incidence of anti-Asian racism and hate crime that we're seeing in the city. And I noted just the other one today on a TransLink train with a woman being physically assaulted. So I'm wondering if we can speak to any efforts the city may be making to step up on this above and beyond communication, or something tangible that we can do, and how council might be able to assist in that. It's getting really worrying how prevalent and that these incidents are becoming.
Yeah, well, I guess I'm not sure exactly what ideas you might have. Would certainly be open to ideas. The majority of the efforts we've undertaken so far are communication related. We did a town hall in Fairchild Radio, and we've been certainly communicating, issuing press releases, and doing other things of that nature to communicate with Vancouverites about the issue. VPD, I know, has been undertaking initiatives as well, but if you have other ideas, certainly open to it. It's quite a concerning situation, and are obviously all concerned about it and want to take action to address it. So certainly open to ideas.
Okay, I look forward to chatting about that further. Thank you very much.
Right.
Thanks. Councillor Dominato. Might be on mute, Councillor Dominato.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, we can. Go ahead.
Thank you. Yes, I have an inquiry and then a couple of updates. The inquiry is just a follow-up. We had a member of the 2S LGBTQ+ committee who was recently faced verbal assault in the West End and anti-gay slurs, and he followed up with VPD, but it was also public about his experience, and one of the issues that he raised in that context was the lighting in the area and a number of street lights being out. He provided a list, I think it's more than a dozen lights out that being in that area. And so I'm wanting to get an update as to whether we're looking at those specific street lights, because there's a safety concern, and then there's a broader ask on the part of the advisory committee for data related to how we handle replacement of lights, because again, tied to safety and security concerns around the city, and just wanted to also find out the status of that request.
Yeah, I think, is this in regard to the email you sent a couple days ago?
This is.
Yeah. I just got the location from a couple days ago.
Yeah, there's two-pronged. So there's the specific issue in the West End and the lighting there, but there's the broader advisory request that was made around data related to lighting in the city and how our follow-up. And
maybe we could talk offline. Typically, advisory committees have a process by which they request that kind of information, and this has happened in a very haphazard way. I'm having a hard time tracking exactly what the request is. So maybe we could just take this offline.
Certainly, I'd appreciate that. The other couple of updates I have is one just with respect to the PNE. I've had a number of questions come my way around the status of the PNE being an asset of the city and something that is an integral part, an iconic part of our community. And I just want to provide a brief update on that. And obviously, the events industry has been heavily hit by the pandemic. The PNE staff and board have been undertaking financial modeling and are now moving forward with a board-approved budget. This comes at a challenging time. The PNE has actually been doing incredibly well in terms of its financial performance in recent years, but there's an acknowledgement that this year the PNE will lose money, and not unlike many industries, they're focused on events. And as we know from Dr. Henry, there will not be any large-scale events this year, and so things like the fair and playland season will not go ahead. But I did want to share that staff are very focused on recovery and what are some things that they can do in both the short, medium, and long term to ensure the resilience and sustainability of the organization. The PNE is going ahead with the prize home lottery, and those tickets went on sale May 1st, and there's actually been an incredibly positive response from the public. Well, challenging time for everyone. People who are losing jobs, people are still wanting to support the PNE. They're launching a number of different initiatives like Party in a Box, and so you can get your favorite donuts and cotton candy and other things at home. And also the team is really working hard to explore creative ideas to continue some smaller, low-scale events and activities, but obviously planning for a reopening in the hopefully not so distant future, and as we look to a vaccine and changes going forward in the pandemic. But I did want to share that. Got a fantastic team there and very community focused and organized, and I just want to relay that they are working very hard to ensure the resilience and sustainability of the organization.
Thank you. Anything else, Councillor Dominato?
No, thank you.
Okay, thanks. Councillor Carr.
Yes, thanks, Mr. Mayor. I also have some questions regarding the West End. The West End Journal has done a report on the housing of homeless in the West End, specifically the Cole Harbour and Roundhouse Community Centres and the Buchan Hotel. So I'm seeking a report back that would be in written form to a number of questions. I will forward the questions, but I wanted to read those into the record. So they're concerned about whether the facilities are exclusively for the use of homeless individuals, referred by Coastal Health, or which was as was originally announced. And second, is the facility at the Buchan Hotel exclusively for the use of homeless individuals, or also for the use, as originally announced, by others who need to self-isolate but have nowhere to go? Third question, will either or both facilities be accessed only by individuals who have not been tested or have tested negative to COVID-19, or also by those who have tested positive and are awaiting the progress of the infection? Fourth, are the individuals at either or both facilities free to come and go as they please? Both of it, there's more details, but I think that's sufficient. Fifth question, are accommodations being made for drug users housed at either or both of these facilities? 6, what are the protocols and procedures in place to support workers and staff as they come and go at the facilities? And concern has been expressed around the neighborhood around the use of public benches, coffee shops, drugs, grocery stores, etc. 7, what security arrangements are in place at the facilities to ensure adherence to the rules? 8, do Atira and Coastal Health have good neighbor agreements in place with the neighborhood in the city? And that includes also the Buchan Hotel. And 9th, what can the community individually or collectively do to offer some form of welcoming support to their new neighbors? So I will forward those questions and would repeat, as I say, I would appreciate a report back, a written report back on those. But there was one additional question that got raised to me by people within the community, which is concern around how long the Roundhouse and the Cole Harbour community centers will be used to house individuals. They've heard 6 months. That's well into the fall, and their concern is around the programming of various and very wide-ranging programs to support local people within those communities and the impact that that might have on that programming.
Yeah, you want me to jump in?
Please do.
Mr. Mayor? Okay. Yeah, happy to get those answers. Most of them are for Vancouver Coastal Health. They are really the ones that are sending people to these locations, and we've set them up at their request. But so it might take us a few days, but we'll definitely get you the information there. And at this point, we don't have an end point for them. It's looking like the cases are going down very, very drastically. So could be much sooner than that. At this point, I don't really know, and we will really be following the lead of Vancouver Coastal Health as to how long that they need those spaces. But I'm happy to, if you could send me the questions in writing, we can do a memo back.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.
Yeah, you bet.
Thank you. Councillor DeGenova.
Thanks so much, Mr. Mayor. I have an inquiry, but I'll raise that after the other matters I have. I just wanted to note that I very much appreciate you mentioning the passing of Constable De Silva. I also appreciate the moment of silence. And I just personally would like to thank Constable De Silva's family who supported him as he served our city and the Vancouver Police Department. I also did want to note, Mr. Mayor, that we lost a number of Canadian Armed Forces members in a helicopter crash earlier in the month. And those members, their names are Sub-Lieutenant Abigail Cowborough, Sub-Lieutenant Matthew Pike, and they're from the Royal Canadian Navy, and then from the Royal Canadian from the Royal Air Force, Captain Brendan Ian McDonald, Captain Kevin Hagen, Captain Maxime Moran, and Master Corporal Matthew Cousins. So I just wanted it to be put on the record to thank them also for their service and their service to our country. And also wanted to extend my condolences to their families as well. It's a loss for our country as well, as they served to keep us safe. Those are some somber notes, but on a happier note, I really wanted to thank our staff for the work that they've done, Mr. Mayor, on weddings. And I understand that we've had a number of weddings booked. I don't want to put the city manager on the spot, but a point of information, maybe a little inquiry here. I understand that as of this morning, there was 24 weddings booked, possibly more. Is that correct? To help people with their physical distancing weddings, 10 people or less at City Hall.
Yeah, I think there were 24 as of the day actually that we announced it. So I'm not sure what the update is. I'm happy to get you an update.
Okay. There were 4 on Friday, I understood, 24 on Monday morning, maybe. So, but I'd love to have an update. I think that's wonderful, and I really want to thank staff for moving quickly and being so creative with that. So wanted to mention that also, and there's been a bit of a movement even in my East Van neighborhood here. There's signs that I actually discovered by coincidence were being made by a local company because it doesn't have the company's name like right on the front of it. But they say, be kind, be calm, be safe. And people are putting them up on their lawns. So I'm really hoping that they're not violating a sign by law. I don't think they are. They're tiny 2x2 signs. But I just think that it serves as a good reminder. And I found out actually that it's supporting a local business, and that also those signs are supporting the CKNW Kids Fund, connecting kids to devices so that they can work at home during COVID. So I just to put a plug out for those signs. Anyone who wants one, you can get one if you send an email to sales@sceneIdeas.ca. And I know $10 of the signs go to local businesses, or the local business is making the signs that's facing hard times right now, and $10 of the signs goes to CKNW Kids Funds. Also, just wanted to ask a quick question and have a quick inquiry, if that's okay, Mr. Mayor.
Sure.
And that would be, there was a canceled meeting. We don't have this happen often, but I know that there was a council meeting and a committee meeting that was on the agenda that was scheduled to take place. And I had motions that were to come forward that were on both of those. So I'm hoping that through you, Mr. Mayor, to the clerk, I could ask about the proper procedure to reschedule to have those motions on the agenda if I wished.
Sure. I mean, do you have something a little more specific, for example, like a particular motion you're wondering?
I'm just asking the procedure because they're kind of left up in the air because the agenda was canceled that they were on.
Okay.
And I've received inquiries from people that had seen the agenda prior to that and perhaps were interested in.
Just to make it a little easier, do you have one? Just you can let us know off the top of your head what it is, and then perhaps we can.
Well, one of them was, in fact, about the C2 rezoning reconsideration, and another one was on 24-hour childcare. So
okay.
I just wanted to know sort of what would normally happen to motions on agendas that were canceled. How would council bring that back?
Does the city manager want to start and move to the clerk?
Yeah, well, I'm happy to address the question. It was my understanding at the time that you had wanted to delay them because there was a fair amount going on. If you're prepared, you want to bring them back, just let me know, and perhaps offline shoot me an email of the particular motions you want to bring back, and we'll get them back on the agenda.
Okay, just wanted to know if there was a time limit on the delay because obviously we're still in COVID and I'm trying to keep that in mind and not put motions forward.
No. Whenever you want to bring it forward, we'll do it.
Thanks very much. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Okay.
Okay, council, I don't, sorry, I'm just looking at my list here. So many windows open. It is hard to keep track sometimes. Sorry, there we go. Okay, I haven't got anybody else in the speaking queue. So I think
motion to adjourn.
There we go, Councillor Hardwick.
Second, Councillor Dejanova.
Okay, I'll say all in favor say yay.
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 And opposed say nay. Great, we're adjourned, council. Thank you so much for your time tonight as well as the staff. So great, and we'll see you tomorrow.
Great, thank you.
Committee. Okay, thanks.
Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Thank
Bye,
you.
everybody.
Bye.